All right, so now let's begin by talking about diminished chord reharmonization. And what I mean by that is a lot of times you'll see a piece of music and you'll see, a diminished chord used as a passing chord. One such example is Ain't Misbehavin' is a great example of this. So, okay, so this is where we start with that C chord, the C6 chord. We go up to C sharp diminished. We go up to D minor, and then to D sharp diminished, right? And then back to like a C over E or, okay? All right, what we're gonna use though is we're gonna use the Van Heusen song, It Could Happen to You. Beautiful song, right? The first part of it is, now you don't always see these chords written like this, okay? But a lot of times in a real book, you'll see that E flat, E diminished, F minor, F sharp diminished, okay? But this is practical diminished harmony. And on a gig, what will happen normally, or what professional musicians will do, is they will not play that diminished chord. Now why? Well, to be honest with you, it kind of sounds a little bit dated, doesn't it? All right? It's not a bad sound, and it definitely comes in handy, and I'll use it from time to time, both in a group setting, but then also solo piano. I like it, okay? But some musicians rather do like a 2-5, there's a little bit more motion there, especially if you're a bass player. If you're a bass player, when you have 2 chords per measure, there's more stuff you can do in there. When it's only 1 chord per measure, there's less that you can do there. So I can understand why a bass player might want to do a 2-5, okay? It really all depends on the player. But what's most important is you understand what's going on and how to recreate it and how to hear it on a gig, all right? So if we start with that E flat diminished, okay, we would keep that the same. So, but now when we get to the E diminished, rather than playing it as an E diminished chord, we change this to a 2-5-1 progression. Now, what is the 1? Let's figure out where 1 is. Well, 1 would be, we move forward a measure and we move to the F minor 7 chord. So that is going to be our target. That's where we're trying to get to. So if we're trying to get to F minor 7, we have to back up, we have to backtrack. So the first thing we do is, what is the dominant 7th chord that takes us to F minor 7? Well, there's many ways of figuring it out, but you can count down 5 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So we start on F, count down 5 half steps, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we come to a C. So a C, dominant 7th chord, will take us to F minor. All right? C7 will take us to an F major or whatnot, but in this case, we're going to F minor. Okay? So C7 leads us to the F minor. All right, so now we got to get the next step is what's the 2 chord that leads us to C, dominant 7th. Again, we can count down 5 half steps. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So a G minor takes us to C7, that then takes us to C minor. Okay? But we're not quite done yet because the diminished chord is not replaced with a stock 2-5 progression. And when I say a stock 2-5 progression, I mean a plain G minor 7 chord, no alterations, right? So we don't use a plain G minor 7 chord with no alterations. Instead, we use the G minor 7 flat 5 and typically a C7 flat 9. You might say, geez, like, how do you know it's a minor 7 flat 5? Why? Well, let's talk about where the origin of that is. If we take a look at E diminished again, okay, let's just take the E out for a second, okay? Now what do you see? Right away. You see what? A G diminished, right? But then those are also the first 3 notes of our G minor 7 flat 5 chord, isn't it? Okay? So in that E diminished chord, you can already see the G minor 7 flat 5, okay? And then, now if I put even that E up here and I just throw a C underneath it, right there, those are the notes of your C7 with a flat 9. Okay? So again, here's my E diminished chord. I'm going to take off the E, right? And I'm going to just replace it with G down here. Now you can see I have the root, the flat 3rd, and the flatted 5th of my G minor 7 chord. Okay? When I go to C, I can put the E back down there again. This is my root. This is my third, my fifth, my flatted seventh, and my flat nine. So here, there's no alteration to the E diminished chord at all. I'm using all of the notes. The only difference is instead of playing an E in the bass, I'm putting a C in the bass. Okay. So an easy way of remembering this is that when you see a diminished chord, go to the minor third, to the flat third of that diminished chord, and you make a minor 2-5 on that note. Okay? So, for instance, when we're on when we're on E diminished, we go to the minor third, the flat third, which in this case is G, right? And we make a minor 2-5. Now remember, a minor 2-5 is a minor 7 flat 5 going to a dominant 7th flat 9, and then proceeding to the next chord, which is many times a minor chord. Okay? So here, if I'm just going to play exactly what I have written here. So say I did the G minor 7 flat 5, I did the C7 flat 9, I did an inversion. Let me throw some roots down there for you. Okay. Nice sound. And then we go to the F minor, and then A minor 7 flat 5, the D7 flat 9. Okay. You're also going to see a little graphic underneath there. It says A half diminished to B7 flat 9. Don't worry about that. We're going to talk about that in a second. Okay. All right. So anyway, that's our replacing the diminished chord with a minor 2-5. All right. So rather than playing E diminished, we play G minor 7 flat 5 to C7 flat 9. Rather than playing F sharp diminished, we go to the minor third. We play A minor 7 flat 5 to D7 flat 9. Now, of course, we're always going to have to see how it works out with the melody. It should usually work out with the melody, but of course, you want to use your ears and you want to think about, the sound that's being created. Okay, like any type of reharmonization, it's not always going to work every single time. Right? You still have to use your ears. If we go back to Ain't Misbehavin', I don't have this written out, but follow along with me. So we have. Okay, so here I have that C sharp diminished. Rather than playing C sharp diminished, I can go to my minor third, which is E. I can make a minor 7 flat 5, E minor 7 flat 5, and I go to that A7, right, the flat 9. So all I gotta do is move that one note there, and it takes me to A7. So I have, sorry. So let me do that slowly. C6, E minor 7 flat 5, A7, the flatted ninth. Bear in mind, I have this set to flats because I was in E flat, so this would normally say C sharp here. And then we go to D minor 7. And then I normally go up to that E flat diminished, but then I can go. So F sharp minor 7 flat 5, the B7, put the flat 9 in. You can also do the natural 9 as well. Anyways, where do we go from there? There we go. And we don't have to worry about from there, okay? So that diminished reharmonization comes in handy. Now, just like we moved the diminished chord to a minor 7 flat 5 to a minor 2-5, we can also work backwards as well, can't we? Okay? So, it's like, let's say that you saw this. So you saw the minor 2-5. You could probably replace that minor 2-5 with a diminished chord if you wanted to. So if you see a minor 2-5 on that minor 2 chord, go down a minor third and create a diminished chord and see how that works out for you. And that would take us again to. So basically what I'm saying is you can work backwards. When you see in sheet music, like let's say you just saw this second half here where it says replaced with 2 5s, let's say that was the music that you saw. Well, when you see G minor 7 flat 5, C7 flat 9, okay, especially when you see F coming after it, you see E flat going to F, so E flat to F, right? Well, what can go in between? That E can go in between, and what kind of E would it be? An E diminished, right? So you can work backwards as well. So try looking through the real book and find those situations in which you see those minor 2/5s. See if you can replace them with a with a diminished chord. So have you met Miss Jones? A lot of times it would be A minor 7 flat 5, but you can also go F sharp diminished. Right? And so a lot of times, you know, you'll see written for having met Miss Jones, F up to F sharp diminished. Okay? But a lot of times instead, what players will do is they'll play, go to B flat 7, then A minor 7 flat 5, then D7, then G minor. Let's just talk real briefly about that. That have you met Miss Jones? So you can see that we're doing that replacing the diminished, right? So A minor 7 flat 5 to D7, okay? But you also notice that we added on one more note there, didn't we? I'm just checking my time. We added on one more note. We added on that B flat 7. Then to A minor 7 flat 5, okay? So that B flat 7 is that sub 5, right? So it's that tritone substitution resolving down to the A minor 7 flat 5. So basically what I'm saying is it's almost like playing an E7 chord that, remember, the dominant chord that leads us to A would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It would be an E7. Okay? But rather than playing E7, we do the tritone substitution of E, which is B flat. Okay? Another way of looking at it, which is an easier way, is we just resolve down from a half step from above. Okay, so we're going to A minor 7 flat 5, so just go up a half step, make a dominant 7th chord, and resolve it down. Right? That's a little bit more quick and practical, especially on a gig. So could we do that here as well? Well, let's try. Yeah, so you see how we can do that. So we can, let me just do some more block chords. So E flat 6, right? And then I can go to A flat 7, G minor 7 flat 5, C7 flat 9. Okay. If I kind of spread those chords out a little bit, E flat 6, down to A flat 7, G minor 7 flat 5, C7 flat 9. Okay. Do it here again as well. F7, F minor 7, B flat 7, A minor 7 flat 5, D7 flat 9. Okay. So all I'm doing is I'm preceding the G minor 7 flat 5 with a dominant 7th chord up a half step. I'm preceding the A minor 7 flat 5 with a dominant 7th chord up a half step. Okay? So some very cool reharmonizations that you can do on your diminished 7th chords. All right? When I come back in the next chapter, I'm going to talk about that A half diminished B7 symbol, all right, that I wrote in here. So see you in the next chapter.